my name is Sujat. Welcome back to Blender Point, and this is a continuation on how to create rock generators in Blender. So let's begin. So here, as you can see on the screen, we will create a scene exactly like this, and I will show you how to create the rocks as well as this scene, where you can see you have where you can see just a moment, let me just show you. So you can see the scene where you have a circular structure where you have these rocks, and there is a central structure where you have other rocks of a similar kind, but you can actually go ahead and change everything from here. So if we go ahead and do a little bit of change over here, as you can see, you would be able to change how the whole thing looks. Now you can see I can, I have control over how much rock we generate over here. So we can go ahead and have a lot of control on how to use it. So let's, without ado, let's begin. So as you can see, what we first need are some rocks. So for that, I'll go ahead and create a new scene, right, where I'm going to show you. I'm not going into details on how to create the rocks because I've already created the rocks beforehand, so you can go ahead and check that. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a cube, bring it to focus. So this is my cube. Now what we are currently in the geometry nodes itself. Let me just go ahead and do this. Let's also get rid of this. Now we have a cube. So what we need to do is, first we are going to create, we already have all these nodes. What I have already done is, if you just create a node and select this one, you would obviously see it has all the nodes required to create this mesh, right? It has already created the mesh, and what we can do is we can go to the modifier section, add some more details by using subdivision. That would give it a better look. Then we can go ahead and give it a displacement as well by using displace and using the texture that we had created previously. The strength is too much. Let's do that. Now you can use this to change how it looks. Now we already have this texture. You can change the texture however you want, how much or how less you need it or want it. You can change it accordingly. So having said that, let's go ahead and make some more of these rocks. So what we have in these is, I'll show you in a brief what drives this rock. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the geometry node setup. So as you can see, if you followed the previous tutorial, you would be able to see I have used the group input node, which is basically the cube, and I have subdivided the cube with 3 levels. Then I have used edges to face group, shortest edge to path, edge path to selection. These are the nodes that have been used as attributes. Then I have used edge path to curve to convert these edges to curve. You would be able to see all the edges if you go ahead and check the spreadsheet. You would be able to see this whole geometry has this many vertices, this many edges as well. So we are using these edges to create path. Then we are creating a convex hull all over the all over the mesh, so that we get a proper mesh. If we just if I just show you the the edges, you would be able to see this, all these scribbly lines. But now if I go ahead and just connect the convex hull to this, you would see the rock forming up. So then I have this joint geometry. I wanted to use something else, but I have kept it over here. So then I have given a set position and set the position of the complete texture with a power node that offsets the position, and I don't know what this is doing. I don't need this, so I'm going to get rid of this. So that's it. That's the whole thing that creates this. Now you can change the seed value to get different sort of rocks. So for now I'm going to duplicate this rock and change this to something else, another node I have. It's the similar node, I have created some other variations of it so that I can get different variations of rocks, right? So now I'll duplicate this as well, put it here, change this one. So that's I am only creating different rock structures so that I can create the whole area. So let's change this to this one, not this one, right? And then change the seed value to get different kind of rock, a shape of rock. We can also play with this one, right? So now we have 4 different rocks, right? Now what we will do is we are going to create a new collection and name it rocks. And put all these cubes inside this one. Now what we need is a plane, and we are going to scale this plane a bit, and we are going to take this out of this rock collection. So now let's create a new collection and call it this, and put the plane inside that. So now we are basically ready for the setup. Now what we can do is we can create another geometry node, name this one loops, looping rocks. And now what we are going to do is, it is very fairly simple setup. So now first what we need is, we need a subdivide mesh. We subdivide this mesh thrice so that we can get some more faces. Now we get distribute points on faces. Now you see there are different points, you can increase or decrease. What I like to use is this Poisson disk, and then increase the value and put the minimum distance to 0.1 or 0.2, whichever you like, you can do that. So now we have all these points. So what we can do is, we can do instances on points on it. So you take the rock group, then connect this to instances. Now you see this happened, so this should not happen. So for that, what we need to do is, we need to pick instances first, then separate children's, then scale this down to point, let's say 0.1. Now you see all these rocks being generated, right? Now what we can do is, we can do one thing, that is to use gradient texture as the selection. Now currently the gradient texture is in the linear format, so we need to change it from linear to spherical. Now you see nothing much changes, but the changes you would be able to see once you take the position, put it over here, take the vector map, change this to multiply, put this to vector. Now you change the start changing the values, and once you start changing the values, you would see the magic happen. But right now, as you see, all of the rocks are of a similar size, so let's mitigate that by using a random value. Then let's use combine XYZ node. Put this value to these two, X and Y, and then put it to, and we need two sets of this, so let's take another one, delete those, take this one, use a vector math node, to multiply the scale accordingly. So now we can actually go ahead and let's not do that. Let's use the scale over here. Let's change the scale to 0.5. 0.5 seems to be too much, so 0.05. Change, keep changing until and unless you're happy. So you can keep changing the seed of it to change the scale of it as well. Now we can use the Z, put this to 360 because we are going to use these to rotate the instances. So now if you do not reset this, then that might get you a little bit of problem like this. So you should go ahead and check the reset children button so that you do not have that issue. So once you change the seed, you would see the whole thing change as well. Now one thing that I want to do is I want to scale these things up as well. So for that I am going to use another set of random values, and then I must use a math node, I suppose. For now I am going to use add and see what happens. Yeah, so now this value I need to change it to maybe 1. No, that's too much. Maybe 0.5. Yeah, so maybe 0.5 is okay. Maybe I'll bring it down to 0.2. Right. So now you can go ahead and keep on changing and see how it does. You can change most of the values from here itself. and also you can change the Z value from here. So now you have this one, so we can go ahead and we can use the same ground plane and use a joint geometry and plug this geometry there. Now you see we are ready. Yes, so now we are ready. To create the circle, to create that looping thing that we created. So for that we are going to take a gradient texture again. So we have that gradient texture over here, so what we need to do is we need to use the color ramp. We have the color ramp, put it here. Now you see you can use the color ramp to increase or decrease the number of rocks, right? So you can do that. With that you can also change these values to affect the creation of rocks. But now you see the only thing is that if we have this, we can only get all the rocks generating from the middle, but I want a clear circular bend or a circular space left out. So for that what we can actually do, is we can so for that what we can do is we can add something like this. What this does is basically create the space in between, right? So now if I press tab and increase this a little bit more, so now you see you get the middle space as well, where you do not have any rocks, and you can actually make it as much as as many or as less rocks as you want. So for that I'm going to show you. I'm going to use the same gradient, delete this, keep this, use a mix node, mix color node, plug this in, plug this here. Now you see, you get this over here. So a middle space and the circular space at the towards the end, and you can control how many or how less of rocks you have. So there you go. Now you have complete control over how your rocks are placed. So now you can just change these values over here to get how many or how less of rocks you want and place them however you want to. And for the first scene, all I did was I have used an environment texture like this. You would get multiple number of environment textures from the internet itself. These are completely free, so you can use that. And I have also used a grass asset from Plantica. I'll share the link in the description. Please check that out. Subscribe and comment on what you want to see and how you liked this video. Thank you and happy blending.